are some who say that communism is the wave of the future. Let them come to Berlin.
President Kennedy came to Berlin in June 1963. The divided city had become the front line in the Cold War, says analyst Andreas Etkes.
Berlin had highly symbolic value for both sides. This is where American values and American freedom should be defended against what then were the communist powers.
In August 1961, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev ordered the building of the Berlin Wall to prevent East Germans from fleeing. Fear and chaos gripped the city, says West Berliner Alexander Longulius.
The Western allies, especially the Americans, were there to protect us, but that was a kind of naive conviction.
The Germans had criticized Kennedy for accepting the wall. The U.S. wanted to reassure West Berliners that Soviet aggression would stop at the wall.
People had been lining up all over the city. School kids didn't have to go to school that day. Many major companies let their workers go.
Seeing the crowds cheering in the streets and the wall at the Brandenburg Gate, Kennedy felt the speech he planned to give was inadequate.
So he basically, on the spot, decided he's not going to give that speech, and he had someone help him write down on a note card a few things in German, and then delivered the famous speech that we all know.
It was just absolute crazy. I mean, the place itself is not that large, so in order to get those masses of people there, they had to stand in all the side streets. All the balconies were filled. Everybody wanted to be there.
I am proud to come to this city.
There's, I think, two key components. One is Kennedy is actually talking about that some people do suggest détente policy and working together with the Soviet Union.
What is the great issue between the free world and the communist world? Let them come to Berlin. In the world of freedom, the proudest boast is, Ich bin ein Berliner.
And the other message was to renew once again America's commitment to Berlin. And he did this with the most famous words of that speech, Ich bin ein Berliner.
There were some doubts whether he would be able to stand up to Khrushchev or whether Khrushchev would take him as a young, inexperienced president. All that was gone.
In East Berlin, reaction was more critical.
The reaction was, we do not belong to this world and will never belong to this world because the Americans will have the West Berliners, but not us.
The applause seemed endless.
Though the wall would stand for another 26 years, at that moment, President Kennedy stood firm against the Soviets. He later told an aide, "We will never have a day like this one as long as we live." Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.